Chapter 0 Prologue. You are listening at FameTV.info. Author note. Wish me luck. I am not sure as to how this story will turn out. I might be biased toward the main character, but I will try not to too much. I will go for as long as I can to keep the story going, but no promises. If I do decide to stop, I will post that I am stopping and a small epilogue. This is because I hate it when I read a FF and the author stops in the middle, months pass, and you have no idea if they ever intend to continue. Prologue. Sarah looked at the sky and sighed. It was filled with dark clouds that were roaring with thunder as rain fiercely hammered down. Just my luck, Sarah mumbled under her breath. The sky had been bright blue when she came to open the library this morning, so she had decided to walk instead of drive. Now looking at the sky, she wished she had not listened to the weather report and blue skies and had drove. Sarah was orphaned at age 8 when her parents died in a car crash. Left with no relatives, she was forced into an orphanage where, due to a depressed state for the first few months, she was outcasted by the other orphans. By the time she could handle her parents' deaths, no one in the orphanage cared to be friends with her, causing her to become antisocial and a loner. With books quickly becoming her best friend, Sarah became an avid reader and decided on becoming a librarian when she became an adult. Rushing through the pouring rain, Sarah wondered about her life. She had no family or friends to speak of and couldn't help but feel a bit empty. Maybe she should try talking to her coworkers again. Taking a short cut through the park, Sarah smiled in spite of the thunder and rain. Yes, Sarah thought, tomorrow I will talk to my coworkers. Just as she finished that thought, a streak of lightning shot down from the sky, striking the only thing in the small clearing in the center of the park, Sarah. Waking up from the darkness that followed the sudden light and pain, Sarah groaned and looked around. She seemed to be in some sort of waiting room. The walls were a calming green, chairs were lined up along the walls with a table in the center of the room filled with magazines. Odd glowing orbs were all over the room, some were on the chairs, floating around the room, and some even had magazines floating in front of them. Sarah tried to shake her head in amazement, only to realize that she had no head. She was also floating, and judging from her surroundings, she most likely was also an orb. Sarah was not a dumb or slow woman by any means, and quickly realized that she was either 1. Dead 2. Comatose 3. Dreaming 4. Or on drugs. With that decided, Sarah's orb went over to the table to check out the magazines. There were 4 different piles of different ones. Handling Death, The 3 Main Paths of Afterlife, Tour Guide of Heaven and Hell, The Dummy's Guide on How to Control Your Soul in the Waiting Room. Sarah felt a pang of sadness in realizing she was most likely dead. Sarah's orb floated over the titles, trying to lift them up. After what seemed to be about an hour, Sarah finally figured out how to open, if not pick up, the magazines. With an embarrassed bob, Sarah's orb opened The Dummy's Guide first. Around 4 hours passed since Sarah had awoken in the waiting room. She had good control of her soul now, had read all 4 magazines, and was waiting to disappear like she had seen other orbs do every so often. In the meantime, Sarah was reviewing what she had learned. 1. Controlling your soul is easy once you learn the basics from the guide, and simply consists of moving, lifting/moving objects, changing color, and emitting a telepathic wave that can communicate simple messages to other souls such as hello, sad, why, bye. 2. If this is real, then she is dead, and that since every mortal dies at some point, there is no point in being depressed. 3. Although there are other rare possibilities after death, such as becoming some minor god, the main 3 are heaven, hell, and reincarnation. 4. Lastly, heaven is a very beautiful but lawful place, and hell is a painful, cold, and if you do go to hell, you should visit the lava falls, since they are the only remotely peaceful place there. 30 minutes later, Sarah felt a pull on her orb. About time, Sarah thought before she winked out of the waiting room. Sarah's soul floated in front of a scholar-like man, black messy hair, small glasses covering a set of bored eyes. He had a thin face and body structure with skin showing he never went outside due to its white paleness. He sat at a desk stacked with what must be millions of papers. The man yawned loudly before addressing the new soul in his office in a monotone of false cheer. welcome to Afterlife Services. Where it will be decided on which path of afterlife you go to, Yahoo. Looking down at the soul's death sheet, a scowl cased over his features. The soul's death sheet was filled with errors over each portion. Even the soul's past life's name was error. Great, thought the Afterlife Service staff member sarcastically as he read the rows of errors. Now he would have to do it the old-fashioned way, soul reading. Standing suddenly, the soul in front of him shivered slightly, sensing his bad mood. Good, he thought it was its fault he was in a bad mood. Moving his hand out fast, he caught the soul in his tight grip, then used none too gently the soul reading technique all staff members learn just in case the death sheets failed. After a few minutes of reading the soul's condition and death memories, he let the soul go and returned to his seat behind the desk. Sarah's soul pulsed in aftermath pain from when the cruel man grabbed her. Not knowing what the man was mad about and fearing more pain, she quickly flew to the back of the room as far away from the man as she could, then waited watching his every move. After the man seemed to be situated back into his seat, he looked directly at her and said, "It seems your soul has been altered slightly due to your death by lightning. It also seems to have reset your karma scale so you can't be sent to heaven or hell. You also don't have any of the unique requirements to follow any special afterlife paths. Therefore you can only be reincarnated." The man snapped his fingers and Sarah felt her soul being pulled again. Delighted that she was leaving the painful man, she almost missed his last words before being pulled away, which made her panic. "Oh, and due to the change in your soul there is no telling how it will affect your rebirth. Hope you don't get stuck with a death notice right away." Listen to the full novel at famvetv.info, direct link in the description.